Welcome to our series of webinars looking at AI literacy. In this session, we're going to explore creativity and AI. So in this session, we're going to start with thinking about what we mean by being creative with AI, how AI can support human creativity, not replace it. And we'll consider the different perspectives on the use of AI for creative work and look at some of those ongoing discussions in what can be sometimes a quite contentious use of AI technology. We'll then go through looking at some practical uses of AI tools, demoing different services and tools that you may want to try out. Lastly, we'll think about responsible use and the importance of using AI in the right contexts and with careful consideration of the appropriateness of outputs. Firstly, we may want to consider what we actually mean by being creative with AI. We're well used to using technology to enhance our creativity, so is the use of AI technology actually any different? There is much debate whether AI systems and tools are actually capable of creativity. Creativity is seen to require imagination and originality. While generative AI tools are built on masses of human creative works, there are arguments that they can only reiterate and reproduce, creating derivative content. Therefore, they can't invent, be original, or truly be creative. This is an interesting discussion to have. It may be, though, that is AI capable of creativity isn't always the most helpful question to ask as a user, because for mostly we don't want to look to AI tools to replace our human creativity. Instead, we see AI tools being best used to support and enhance our creativity, not replace it. We can see there are lots of opportunities for AI tools to support us in this way. Currently, the use of generative AI in creative spaces is particularly contentious, and there are a wide variety of perceptions on whether and how AI tools should be used. In this section, we'll take a look at some different perspectives on AI use and consider our own opinions on the matter. Artist Boris Eldagson has used generative AI tools in his creative works for several years now. And in 2023, he submitted this piece titled Pseudamnesia, the Electrician to the Creative Open category at the Sony World Photography Awards. He won the award, but he openly declined the prize, and in his non-acceptance speech explained how the work was created using generative AI and was submitted as a test to see if the competition was ready for the influx of AI-generated works incoming, and to start a dialogue in the industry around the use of AI itself. Notably, Eldagson is not against the use of AI. He's explained the value he finds in using these tools in his creative workflow, even comparing using AI to conducting a choir, with the training data behind the models providing a host of different perspectives, with his role becoming to conduct them. He emphasises, though, the importance of acknowledging the use of AI in these works and refers to them as promptographs, a combination of prompting and photograph. A key issue for many is the use of copyrighted material in the training data of generative AI models. Edward Newton-Rex was the Vice President of Audio at Stability AI, and he notably resigned from that post last year and publicly stated that this was because he didn't agree with the company's stance that the use of copyrighted materials to train their models was acceptable under fair use, which is a US legal doctrine permitting the use of copyright-protected works in some cases. Edward Newton-Rex is one of many who are advocating for AI providers to license the data they use and compensate the original creators fairly. Some creative sectors are further along in their adoptions of AI technology than others. Notably, generative AI has been used in music composition and production for many years now. This example shows musician Taryn Southern, who released her first solo album in 2017. It was titled I Am AI and created using a combination of audio generation tools including IBM's Watson Beat, Amper, Ava, and Google Magenta. Another prominent concern is over the potential for the use of AI to cause job losses in creative industries. And unfortunately, we can see recent real examples of this occurring. In May this year, payment processor Klarna announced that they had cut their marketing agency spend by 25% and saved $1.5 million in Q1 of 2024 by utilising AI image generation, using tools like Midjourney, OpenAI's DALL-E, and Adobe Firefly. Their announcement was met with some online backlash. Many people found the announcement in bad taste and insensitive to those whose jobs may be affected. Further, the announcement was accompanied by a strange AI-generated image of a bouquet of flowers with electric hair tongs through it, which seemed to some to exemplify the low quality of AI-generated imagery. We can see a lot of variation too in people's perceptions to AI-generated media. The majority of social media users will have recognised over the last 6 months particularly that AI-generated images are commonly popping up across most major platforms, though most are not marked as AI-generated. We might see too though that other users are warning them of AI-generated imagery. On this slide are 2 images posted in response to AI-generated images on Facebook. They have warnings stating, "Caution, you're admiring AI-generated content. Be critical." And "Please be cautious. Many of these AI posts use a bogus link to trigger a phishing scam to try to gain your login information." So we can see people are trying to spread awareness around AI-generated content, and particularly in its use in scams and to deceive unaware users. We've seen too that the context AI-generated content is used in matters. We saw this with the example of Klarna, and also last year from Microsoft, who used an AI-generated image to promote Xbox indie games. The Xbox promotional image showed cartoon children playing in the snow, but viewers quickly spotted the telltale signs of AI-generated imagery as the children's faces and the sleds they played on were poorly rendered. There was significant enough criticism of the use of this image that it was taken down shortly after being posted. In this case, the use of AI to promote indie games development in particular was seen as offensive, when independent developers and artists are seen as most at risk of being negatively affected by increasing use of AI in the games industry. AI-generated materials are now also appearing not only online but in physical spaces, including retail. Here we have a photograph of a wall of greetings cards for sale in London. All the images are AI-generated from a company called Artificial Ink. We looked at the company and their website is full of AI-generated blogs and AI art. Increasingly, we see products like these for sale. For business owners too, they may not be aware that the products they are stocking use AI-generated works, and there's really no requirement in place for this to be identified right now. Overall, perceptions to AI-generated works from both creators and consumers are varied and evolving as fast as the technology does. It is evident already though that context matters in the use of AI-generated works, and for ourselves we'll need to consider what contexts are appropriate and what are inappropriate in education.
In this segment, we're going to look at a few AI tools available that can help us when we're getting creative. There are always ethical and practical challenges such as bias and intellectual property issues that we need to consider, also the quality of any content that we produce. It's important to use these tools appropriately and consider both the benefits and potential drawbacks in educational contexts. Just before we look at a few of these tools, just a reminder that AI can help us to be creative with finding solutions to problems, supporting our writing process, helping us to get our ideas down and break them down. Also things around visualizing content and then turning it perhaps into musical audio as well. There are many different ways that it can support our creative process. Our first tool that we're going to look at is called Skybox AI, and it's an AI-powered tool by Blockade Labs that generates high-resolution 360 panoramic images and 3D environment meshes from simple text prompts or sketches. We're going to have a quick look at this in a second. Skybox 360 uses AI to create 360 panoramic images in a 3D environment. We've got a number of choices here, but I'm just going to choose this one. It has an example prompt already in there, which is about a steampunk city and in Victorian buildings. Quite interesting to give us a bit of inspiration. But I've got a text prompt here, which is a classroom in the 1960s in the UK with 4 windows in an urban area. So I'm going to ask it to generate it, and then we're going to see what it comes out with. Now, each time I've done this, I've ended up with different results. Some are not factually correct, but some of them are quite spot on. But we could use this as immersive learning, as we can open it up in a web browser nice and easily and have at least discussions around this area. It's got good capabilities that we can simply put a text prompt in and it will generate quite quickly. So in a second, we'll hopefully have an image that we can explore based on the 1960s classroom. Here we are. So we've got here some desks, some chairs, radiators. Was there a real board there? We've got a little board there. We've got more than 4 windows. So as we say, it can generate content that isn't what we've asked for. However, it is definitely in an urban area. Quite a nice classroom there, I suppose. Not very many to sit down, but a nice, easy tool to use, and it's just on Skybox. The technology for creating images has been available for some time. However, recent updates have greatly enhanced our ability to edit AI-generated images. Now we can easily request ChatGPT to make specific modifications to the images it produces. Here in a text prompt, we requested an image of a cat sitting on a windowsill next to a vase of flowers by simply typing in the description. The images have then been generated. We can further modify this image by using the Edit Image feature, which allows us to select parts of the images and make changes with simple text prompts. For example, here we specify add roses to the floral arrangement. In the past, this would have taken quite a bit more time to be able to do, and although you can clearly see it looks AI generated, it looks pretty straightforward for editing content. As we can see, there is a red rose and a pink rose. Perhaps they don't look suitable, however, quite easy to do. Synthesia is an AI-powered platform that excels at video creation. It utilises text-to-speech technology alongside customizable AI avatars, allowing you to simply type in your script and then the platform transforms this into a professionally produced video and an AI avatar explaining the script. The technology is incredibly quick and creates quite high quality videos for purposes such as training or marketing or educational content. It does streamline the process in actually creating the content and also presents your information in a nice visual way. In a second, we're going to have a look at an example that I've created based on the topic, what is creativity?
Creativity is the ability to generate and express new and original ideas. It involves thinking uniquely, seeing the world differently, and connecting concepts. Creativity is not limited to the arts, but can be found in science, technology, business, and education. At its core, creativity is about innovation and problem solving. It requires curiosity, open-mindedness, and a willingness to take risks. Creative individuals approach challenges with imagination, exploring multiple solutions and perspectives. Key components of creativity include originality, producing novel ideas; fluency, generating many ideas; flexibility, adapting and viewing things from different angles; elaboration, expanding on ideas to add depth. Creativity combines knowledge and experiences in new ways, connecting different pieces of information to form innovative solutions. It's an essential skill for personal growth and progress in all areas of life.
We will now look at Adobe Firefly, which has some generative AI tools available. We'll look at creating a template from a simple text prompt. So we enter the text prompt and then we see what Adobe Firefly suggests. Again, we should always check and review any content. Canva has also got a number of generative AI tools in it. And here we're going to create using a generative fill tool, and we're going to create a presentation. So we're going to type in our topic, and I would like it to create a topic based on AI tools in Canva itself. So it's going to create that for us, and it's going to come up with some suggestions from text prompt. So we don't need to go to AI tools such as ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. They've actually got these tools available in many that we already use. So we've got here AI tools overview, and then we can actually use the magic write button. So it's given us a template for this presentation. Perhaps don't like the image there on the right hand side with the robot. However, we could use the magic write function, and we can ask it to generate some text based on a topic. So the topic, as I say, is Canva AI tools, and then we can edit and change the presentation that it's given us. Again, it's a good starting point. It might not be the finished product. We would certainly need to check some spelling, make sure it's suitable for our audience, but we could use this to generate content. So something a bit quicker, which hopefully will make us a bit creative. So transforming Canva's design realm in AI, for example. Now, I would edit this. I would make sure I'd think about the presentation and the style and headings and so on. But we're using these tools and we're asking it for some context, and it's giving us some text information. So I would like to know some information around Canva itself and the generative AI tools available inside of it. So it should hopefully be quite good at talking about this. And what can Canva do? So we're asking it and it will generate. We're just going to let that process for a few seconds. Here we are, we've got quite a bit of text that's been generated. Again, I would check it, I would make it suitable for my audience, but again, quite useful when we're thinking about getting creative. Providing valuable insights and saving time. Secondly, image generation tools might help us create visual representations of our ideas, or we might use a tool that allows us to input an image and get some feedback. Finally, AI can boost productivity by automating repetitive tasks, allowing creators to focus on more creative and strategic activities. We could use a tool like Google Lens, for example, for research, where we can take a picture of an image in an art gallery, and then it can search the image and find similar works. So learners potentially could gain a deeper understanding by researching the same genre or the same information. There is a caveat here that you will get lots of shopping sites, but there certainly is a tool here that you could use to understand a topic further. In this segment, we're going to think about how students are already using generative AI as part of their learning process. Here we have an example of how students are using generative AI as part of their studies at the University of Northampton. This website link at the bottom or the QR code will give you access so you can read more or watch their short demonstration video about it. But essentially, learners have been using generative AI to help with their creative process and using a logbook to show how they have used it throughout their project. Quite an interesting one to go and have a look at. Here we have an example from the University of Northampton's BA Fashion, Textiles, Footwear and Accessories programme, which has incorporated generative AI to enhance students' creative processes. This innovative
Going to use AI tools now, we can expect that AI tools and services are going to be a part of the workplace in the future. As we have seen, one of the most contentious issues with generative AI is the use of copyrighted materials to train models. Increasingly, AI tool providers are coming under scrutiny for their use of protected works as training material. More transparency is being called for by regulators and rights holders about the source of the training content that's being used. And there is growing emphasis on developing innovative licensing models that will set the conditions and payment models for the use of training materials in the future. There are multiple ongoing court cases being heard across the world around AI, with many authors, artists, musicians and more launching legal action against some of the largest providers, including Microsoft and Google. In the UK, the case of Getty Images versus Stability AI is ongoing. Getty Images argue that millions of their copyrighted images have been used by Stability to train their Stable Diffusion model without consent. As well, they argue that outputs from the model further infringe their intellectual property rights as they contain substantial reproduction of Getty's images. Many of these cases have similar conditions, whether this is image generation, audio, or even text. At the moment, we really await to see the outcome of these cases and how they may set precedents for AI development and use going forward. With these uncertainties, there are some key questions emerging for us as potential users of these tools. A key question that often comes up is, if I use AI tools to generate content, am I at risk of infringing the rights of someone whose work was used to train the model behind that tool? And the short answer is yes, depending on what you're generating and which model is used. Many popular models have been trained on very large data sets, which more often than not include significant amounts of copyrighted data. But copyright laws currently offer no real solution to this very new problem. There is no punishment or wrongdoing on the user's behalf, and publishers are now trying to create their own models using their own data, or looking for AI providers to license their data and compensate them fairly. Another question is, will I, as a user of the tool, own the work that is outputted? Again, in the UK, there is nothing concrete on this yet legally, but in other countries, some of those cases are being resolved. In the US, for instance, it was ruled that a user could own the output but wouldn't be able to copyright it. Meanwhile, a similar case in China, a judge was willing to grant copyright protection for a work created by AI. Ultimately, we don't yet know if the UK will take a similar stance to either of these, but ultimately we do expect we're likely to see differences depending on your location. For now, we should be sure to read the terms and conditions of the tool itself. Many will advise whether the user has some ownership of their output, but also include that the provider retains certain rights to that output as well. Overall, regulation is still catching up with the pace of AI development, and for now, if we want to engage with some of these AI tools, there will be some uncertainty. There are efforts, though, to introduce licensing schemes and certifications for AI providers to demonstrate that the data they use has been sourced ethically. Edward Newton-Rex, the former Stability AI employee who we spoke about earlier in the session, has started a certification service for AI providers called Fairly Trained. Providers can submit their model to this to have it certified that they've used only fully licensed data. Currently, there are around 9 companies with the certification, many of which are creators of audio generation models, and hopefully more will join schemes like this. We also need to think about how we as users can use generative tools responsibly if we are going to use them. And it's really critical to do this to evaluate the suitability of the content that's outputted by the generative AI tools, and consider as well whether the purpose and audience that it's intended for matches the output that you've created. Although these tools have impressive capabilities, they also still have significant limitations. AI-generated content needs to be critically evaluated for quality. Some issues can be obvious. For instance, text in generated images is often misspelled or nonsensical, but others might be harder to identify. Generators may also misinterpret the user's prompt, for instance confusing similar concepts. Typically, the more well-known a concept is, the better a generator can reproduce a similar output. This does mean though that results can be very stereotypical. For instance, in the image on this slide, we have a generated mood board for a UK classroom design, and it leans very heavily on the flag motif, which is also incorrectly drawn multiple times. It's key to edit the output or just use it as inspiration. For instance, in this case, we might want to use the idea here of the Union flag design on a classroom chair, but we would take that idea and research images of the actual flag in order to depict it correctly. There are many AI generation tools available now for a range of content types. However, many do not produce accessible content. This example of a PowerPoint presentation generated with Microsoft Copilot 365 shows very poor contrast used between the background colour and the text colour, making it impossible to read the text on the slides. It's important for all content types to still be evaluated for accessibility and for the outputs to be adjusted accordingly. It's also important to question whether generative AI is the right tool to use at all, and to ensure that we generate content mindfully. There are concerns that the way these tools make creating content so easy is leading to an oversaturation of poorly crafted AI-generated works. We shouldn't generate material just because we can. There is also concern that over-reliance on these tools will result in the majority of content becoming more and more predictable and derivative of what has come before. There's also fear that this is going to entrench existing biases, particularly against marginalised groups, as they are typically significantly underrepresented in the data that these models have been trained on. Further, thinking of the future of generative AI development, if we want to train new models, then this can't be done with 100% AI generated content, as the results become cumulatively poorer. In our next section, we're also going to have a look at how artists and content creators are looking to protect their work from being used in the development of AI tools. One notable example is the Glaze project, created and run by staff and graduate students from University of Chicago. They've created two tools to help artists protect their digital artworks against AI. Their first tool, Glaze, released in March 2023, is designed to cloak a digital image to prevent an AI model from learning the style of that image, to protect an artist's unique style from being learned and reproduced by an image generator. Their second tool, Nightshade, goes further and is able to fool the model into recognizing the image incorrectly in order to disrupt its training. For example, a picture of a cat might be perceived as a picture of a boat. These tools are an effort for artists to be able to protect their works, but also to make AI developers wary of indiscriminately collecting content online as they have done before. Many users would like to opt their works out of being collected and used for AI training, but this isn't always possible. Many platform providers, including Meta, WordPress, Tumblr and more, have over this year updated their terms and conditions to advise they may use user-submitted content if users don't opt out. However, it can be increasingly difficult to make sure that you've opted out of each platform or service that you've signed up for. And in many cases, the terms and conditions changes mean that this will be applied to everything that you've posted previously, not just new works. OpenAI have also claimed that they will have a media manager tool available in 2025, which allegedly will allow content creators to specify whether they want their works excluded from OpenAI's machine learning research and training. Ultimately, for many though, these options are too little too late, as any works that have already been collected and used cannot now be removed from the models who have been trained on them. Here we have some examples of the different kinds of methods for social media users looking to opt out. Meta on the left require users to submit an objection form, whereas Tumblr users on the right can tick a box in the settings area of their accounts. Again, it can be difficult for the average user, who likely has accounts across multiple platforms, to keep up to date with opting out of their content being used for AI training. For all who create content online, these changes to popular platforms' terms and conditions can cause immediate issues with their ability to promote their works and in many cases grow their careers and businesses. These changes have caused many to leave popular platforms and seek new ones which won't use or sell their content as AI training material. One social app, Kara, has been designed specifically for creatives and has experienced a huge surge in membership, growing from over 40,000 users to just over 650,000 users in just 1 week, as people leave platforms like Facebook and Instagram in droves. Another effort in this space is the Do Not Train registry, which seeks to build a consent layer to AI. Anyone can use their search feature, called Have I Been Trained, to search for their images in one of the largest open data sets used in AI training, containing over 5 billion images. If their images are in the data set, they can flag them with a Do Not Train label, which signifies to developers using that data to remove their works before using it for training. This does rely on developers of AI tools agreeing to respect the registry, and thus far a few have, including Hugging Face and Stability AI. However, other big players like OpenAI have not. Here we have an example of using the Have I Been Trained registry to search for the Jisc logo. It appears several times, showing lots of different variations have made it into the dataset over the years. We can click on an image and flag it as Do Not Train. As said though, this can't remove it from any model that has already been trained on it. But for the few, and hopefully soon more companies that are respecting this list, it should stop them from incorporating the work into their next model training.
In this final segment, we're going to look at good practice for using AI and think about the responsible use of these AI tools. Supporting ethical AI image generation. Some companies are working towards ethical AI image generation, such as VAIIsle, Inc. and Fairly Trained. We've seen those examples earlier on, but it's thinking about promoting the ethical use of this content. Efforts are showing that this can be impactful and ethical when we're using AI-generated content. Fairly Trained, as we've looked at, is a non-for-profit group that certifies models which have been proven that their training set has been obtained with full consent from the original creators. Currently, in ethical model space for image generation, there doesn't look to be many direct consumers tools that can actually help in this way. Through VAIIsle, they've created this tool called Paper Maker App that's available in Canva app and Marketplace. We expect that this will continue and there'll be more tools available in this space, especially in education. So I suppose we have to think about how we can support our learners through thoughtful generation. I think it's essential to speak to learners around AI and responsible use. Think about promoting the awareness of ethical considerations with this training set that has been used to create the content that we're creating. Make sure we encourage critical thinking and creativity. So use them for creativity, but critically think about what they're creating and how it assists them. Provide resources and tools where possible, and then always refer to the use of AI where images and text, for example, have been used. As we hopefully have seen, creativity using AI presents us with a few questions. I think the questions are, what are the educational contexts where image generation is appropriate or inappropriate? How can we use image generation tools responsibly? Consider the potential of bias. If we do use them, how do we choose which tools to use? What do staff and students need to know to protect their own works in the age of generative AI? Hopefully through the session we've covered a number of those areas, but I do think it's down to the user, making sure that we're happy with what we're creating and actually thinking about how we're going to use it. So thank you for taking the time out to watch this video, and hopefully this webinar has been useful for you. If you would like to get in touch, we have a mailing list that you can sign up for, which is aied@jiscmail.ac.uk, where we publish any information and advice and guidance. We also have an email address, ai@jisc.ac.uk. If you've got any interesting projects you would like to get involved with, please do let us know. And we have our webpage as well with a resource hub and lots of information on there. We hope this has been useful for you.